Well, hello, everyone. I am joined by Aaron Montgomery, and I'm going to let Aaron tell you about his business. I met Aaron through a mutual friend in a networking group, and I liked Aaron right away. He's a great guy, and he does this really cool mastermind that I've been trying to get to. Recently, I've been trying to get to it. But anyway, Aaron, tell us a little about who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I really enjoyed getting to meet you and loving what you're doing here. So having an opportunity to come be part of this is really cool. So my name's Aaron Montgomery. The company that I own is called Our Success Group. And I just work with business owners to find clarity, to find most of us are pretty overwhelmed. We've got a time management issue, we think, and I find that a lot of that just comes down to having an uncommon mindset and developing some strategies that allow us to feel like we get to be a business owner instead of have to do all of these things and end up with another job that steals all of our time. So I've been doing that for about 5 years now. About a year and a half ago, I wrote this book here called The Fundamentals of Business Success. And yeah, I just am out there trying to share with people an uncommon mindset, a different way of thinking about how they might go about designing their business. And I love collaborating, facilitating. So that was the mastermind that you mentioned. I put together virtual masterminds. I put together local ones, trying to build my local network a little bit more, and just enjoying getting out and meeting people like yourself.
Awesome. So the one that you're doing locally is in person, correct?
It is. It is in person. And we do that over at the 8020 studios there in O'Fallon, Missouri. And we do that on the fourth Monday of each month. So I love doing that. I'm also been attending another one called E for E, which has been a great session too. So I'm working with those guys to maybe do something in the western part of the St. Louis metro area here. So yeah, cool stuff. I travel so much for speaking and because I've been in this t-shirt printing industry for about 24 years now, I guess we're coming up on. And so I didn't really have a lot of local close connections here in the St. Louis area because I spent all my time traveling. But now that I'm slowing down, I'm starting to kind of branch out outside of the t-shirt printing world. It's just been really great to kind of get more local here and meet people in person, right? And now that we can do that again.
Right? So who can come to your mastermind that you just talked about? Like who can
Yeah.
show up?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. We're really looking for anybody that's a professional. Typically, they're business owners, right? And so that's kind of who I tend to speak with. Just people that own a business. Maybe they're coaches. Maybe they're service-based businesses. Maybe they're even product-based businesses. We've had all sorts of different people show up, but the idea is to really kind of show up, talk about what's working as opposed to what's broken.
Mhm.
And we could talk a little bit more about that later, maybe. But
Yeah.
this whole concept of talk about what's working and then how do we amplify that? So
Mhm.
I find that the people that get the most value out of it and the most connections that end up being collaborative are typically business owners who come to that.
Yeah, I love that. When I first started my business, networking was like really important to me because never ran a business before. And so I'm like, I need to get in with people that are running their own businesses so that I start catching on to some of the things that they're doing. Or, I was teaching some classes and teaching business owners and coaching business owners before I started my business. And then going from that to actually, that's my job now, it was like, just, I've got to figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah.
And I love networking. I think it's great. I love meeting people like yourself. I love being able to collaborate with other people. I did a workshop last year with a friend of mine, and it's just great. I don't know. I really enjoy it. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're good at it. That's probably why.
it's all
No,
that, all those years of ministry.
that's right. There you go. It's bringing those strengths to bear. And, interestingly enough, for me, networking was like brought up a ton of anxiety. It made me
Mm,
feel really, and I honestly, depending on where it is, I'm not always a big fan of it. I'm kind of a ambivert, I call myself, right? I love getting out there and speaking, but I
sure.
also need my cave time and I like to, kind of have that. And I think what I discovered was I was just going to the wrong places, right? I needed to be
Mm.
around people like yourself who are heart-centered entrepreneurs, not the, hey, let me see if I can get my hand on your wallet. And it's just all about the trading business. Again, I think that's going to naturally happen in a networking event that is
Yeah.
designed the right way. And so again, meeting you and seeing what you did, I'm like, yeah, this person gets it. She's really good at this. And so it was fun to interact with you. And then we got to have a one-on-one and that was even better. So
I'm with you. I hate when somebody hard sells me. Like when they're
yeah,
trying to sell me hard, I'm like, and I am totally turned off and not going to buy your product. So someone was sharing this story with me about the no the whole hard selling thing, or
yeah,
I was sharing this with someone, and I was like, I told the person in the very front end, like, hey, I do not like to be hard sold, so I'll be happy to listen about your product, but I don't like pushy salesmen. They proceeded to be very pushy. I stopped the mid sentence and I was like, listen, I gave you a warning on the front end and I appreciate that you're trying to make a living. I said, but I was very clear with you that I
yeah,
don't like to be hard sold. I just am that person where I'm just like, I'm just going to stop you because I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time. You know,
yeah. That's, uh, I guess there's just this feeling that they have to do it that way, right? Maybe that was
yeah.
something that was emulated to them. I don't know. I think in today's day and age, people, I don't know, people don't really like that. I don't know too many people that actually are successful with that kind of a mentality. So,
Yeah. You hear
um,
all the time when like people call people in the evening, they get so irritated with it.
yeah,
I'm just like,
absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's
So
wild.
tell us about your primary focus and what you do in your business. And also I want to ask you about your book too, but I'll wait till you tell me about your like what's your primary focus in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I think at the beginning, I think I feel like I'm more of a facilitator, collaborator is kind of more my role, right? I've played with all the different descriptions, from coach to consultant to, so author obviously is something that I've wanted to be since a kid. So I have that now, but what I've really determined is my strength lies in the facilitation, in bringing people together. So my focus really at the kind of ultimate end is getting people into full-on mastermind programs. So we have kind of the program that we're doing in person there, but I actually facilitate and run actual Zoom mastermind groups where we have 4 to 6 people per group, and we get together for about an hour and a half every 2 weeks, and we really just work on their business, right? So that's kind of the ultimate focus. In other ways, I do help people find their strengths, their values, and passions. That was a huge step for me in my journey. I think I maybe told you this story when we were one on one, but I had this feeling inside of me that I didn't actually have like a special purpose, right? It makes me think of like a Steve Martin movie. I'm dating myself here from way back, but I just didn't feel like I had a a reason, a purpose, and I couldn't find it. I spent a lot of time and energy and effort, read all the books, the Simon Sinek Start With Why, from everything. Even honestly was one of the things that attracted me to become a success principles trainer was really trying to figure out what my why was. And finally, about 5 years ago, I had a chance encounter with a gentleman who's now a friend of mine who was a strengths coach. And he ran me through his strengths program. He's a Clifton Strengths guy, and you're very familiar, I'm sure. And I was like blown away at how kind of spot on it was. And then started thinking about it and going, huh, man, I think my strengths actually speak to what I do. I felt like my strengths were things that I needed to kind of tamp down because I didn't want to be arrogant or egotistical.
Mm.
But the reality was that was my purpose. And it just was a shift in the way I went about it, right? That I was sharing a gift as opposed to me being arrogant or egotistical and focusing on that. So I kind of realized that we're put on this earth to do something specific, and we're also given the tools to do that thing. And therefore, your strengths really can tell you what your purpose is, what your reason is. And I find when we're in alignment with these things, I call them SVPs, strengths, values, and passions,
Yeah.
that our business gets so much more easy. I guess not so much more easy. That's not the exact way to say that. It gets easier because it's simplified. We've
Yeah.
kind of greased the rails, so to speak, and I'm not trying to chase what everybody else is doing. I'm just aligning my business with who I am and how I operate. I might take inspiration from others, but ultimately, yeah, that's what I like to do, and we do a lot of that in our mastermind programs. And so, kind of building our businesses up to that into a mastermind program from there.
I love that, Aaron, because you're focusing on what people's strengths are. And, you said something, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it made me think of like, so a lot of times people hear people say certain things about them, like, hey, you're not this and you're not that. And, and that becomes part of their identity over time because they've heard it so many times, or whoever it was that spoke that into them, um, was someone that they trusted and valued. And what happened is their identity shifted and they were no longer really who they were meant to be and their purpose involved in that. They shifted it off of what someone said. And I see that happen so many times.
Yeah,
So many times. And it's
absolutely.
really, it breaks my heart because that happened to me at one point in time,
Uh-huh.
and I am who I am. It's so crazy. I don't know if I've shared this with you, but I had someone that was an executive in the organization that I worked with years ago, and they kept saying, you're too direct, you're too this, you're too that,
Hmm.
and I started when I would be direct, and it wasn't in a bad way. I used to just like walk away and go, I feel so bad.
Yeah,
I feel bad that I did that, but there was really anything wrong with it, right?
yeah, yeah.
And that happens to a lot of entrepreneurs coming out of maybe the corporate environment or even starting their own business from scratch.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like you said, the stories that we tell ourselves are, and those stories come from, I mean, heck, we probably have stories that we tell ourselves that came from a place of love, our parents, right? Or an upbringing, or like you said, we take these stories on ourselves and then we aren't truly living who we're supposed to be and sharing our gifts the way that we're capable of. And, I think it is really important to understand that what I found is there's this level of balance, right? So I think for me, when I finally was able to put language to my strengths, what had happened all these years is I was way out of balance with it. And so I was really focused on, so my strengths are like problem solving, competition, significance, making an impact, things like that. And I was like, again, being really out there with it when I was younger. And then again, like you said, people would go, well, you're to this, or, just trying to, even like I said, family members telling you something. And so I started to go the other way with it. I wanted to bury all those things, right? Because I was like, oh, well, this makes me a bad person. And the reality was I was just out of balance with it. Right. And so I can still be who I am, but find the balance so I can work with people. And so a great example of this is in my marriage. My wife will have something that she's struggling with. My immediate natural reaction is I want to solve it. I'm a problem solver. And I know you've got a husband as well, and maybe it's a male thing. I don't know if that's absolutely true, but I've heard this story a lot from people that if us guys could just shut our mouths and listen, we'd be better off, right? And so I have to find that balance and understand, okay, when is the right time to find solutions so I can lean into my strengths? And when is the right time to go, okay, I can just keep that to myself for right now and move forward. So I agree that it's so imperative that we understand who we are and then figure out how to work those into our business, into our relationships, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, somebody told me the other day, they said, your personality is reflected in your business. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I don't think about it. I just am trying to be the best version of myself that I can.
Yeah.
And, what I found is when I wasn't walking in who I am, I never showed up the best version of myself
Mm,
because I was trying to adapt to what other people were saying. And you're right, it's such a crucial thing in being a business owner because,
yeah.
we do similar things in what our businesses do, right? But
Mhm.
I'm not in competition with you because
No.
you have a group of people and a purpose that you connect with,
Yep.
and so do I. And
Absolutely.
so, and it goes back to the collaboration thing that you've talked about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was a huge lesson for me to understand what you just said right there, though, right? Because I can collaborate, I can do things with people like yourself, who, again, if we were to just look at it side by side, maybe we're quote unquote competitors, but that's not true. Like, there's nobody that we're actually in competition with. The only person that we're actually in competition with is ourselves yesterday. All right. If I can just be better than myself yesterday, then I've won, quote
Yeah.
unquote. And so understanding that, right, that opens up this whole new world of opportunities, of collaborations, of, who knows, right? When maybe there's a partnership down the road. And I've been saying this for quite some time in my business, and I know it's not my saying per se, but I haven't figured out exactly who said it first. But a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
Mm.
And I think there's a lot of different ways that that's been said over the years, but that truly is the way that I've managed to look at that. And again, going back to that whole balance thing, I had to understand that before I could use my superpower of being competitive, right? And understanding that that competitiveness was internal, not external. And the competitiveness allows me to push myself and push other people around me to rise the tide, raise the tide, so to speak. So
So, Aaron, tell us of some of the challenges and the successes that you've had since you've started your business.
yeah, thank you for asking that for sure. The challenges are many, right? I think all small business owners are familiar with that. We wear all the hats, right? So, balancing the work life balance, that myth of that whole thing, um, and then just kind of getting people, as we have more clarity in our business, right? It makes it easier for us to explain what we do, and I've been honestly really kind of overhauling and changing what I did. I think I probably started off with this mindset of, okay, I have to see what the gurus are saying out there and try to emulate that and become them. And I think a big reason that um, so about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I kind of blew up the whole thing, so to speak. I had memberships and we were doing stuff and it was going really well. And I just was like, man, this is the same feeling I had when I was working for somebody else and I didn't feel fulfilled. And so I thought by, being my own business owner that the fulfillment was going to just show up. And the reality was it still was that same feeling. I felt like I was chasing somebody else's dream.
Mhm.
And so I kind of, like I said, blew the whole thing up, canceled all the memberships, told everybody, thank you, appreciate it. Here's what we're going to do going forward. And, so that's been great. But it's also been a challenge because explaining that to people and when you're working with a certain group of people, now finding people that are willing to invest in themselves and understanding that if they want to take it to the next level, right? So, um, a big thing for me is I'm not a huge fan of the blaming, complaining, excuse making, the commiserating. And I understand we need certain level of that as humans to just kind of, know that we're in the same tribe, so to speak.
Mhm.
But at a certain level, it's like, okay, great. Now, what's the solution? Right? I understand that you've got a challenge. So, what's the solution? So, I think that was a big thing for me to learn and understand is just, where I fit and going from there. So that has been the biggest challenge is just kind of making that change and all the while trying to provide for my family and all the other things that go along with being a business owner.
Yeah.
Um, and then the successes have been some of the relationships that have built and some of the successes that people have had. I'm not going to take credit for it because it was them doing the work, but I think being able to facilitate their growth. I was just talking to one of the members of our mastermind a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about how when she first started with us about 3 years ago in the mastermind program, she had just bought a business that was and moved into a storefront, and they were doing about $63,000 a year. And this year in or 2024 in November, they hit $600,000.
That's awesome.
And you know, obviously she did the work, but it was really cool to just be a part of that and be able to, you know, help and support and provide her, because like everybody, she went through all the changes, the life happening, the family stuff, the focusing on business. Now I've got to get employees, right? And so being able to support her and be there for her as a group was really cool, right? So those are the success stories, and you know, that's what makes each day really exciting to be a part of, is to, you know, just be around people that have that growth mindset.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was talking to someone the other day, and I asked them, I was like, how many books do you read a year? And they're like, I don't like reading. And I was like, well, if you want your business to grow, you better become a reader.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So
for sure. It's funny about that. Like, I thought that very same thing. And I still obviously agree with you 100% on what you just said, right? If you want your business to grow, you better start being a reader. You better start learning. You better start taking things in. But as you've kind of maybe heard from me so far, there's this balance thing that I can easily get out of alignment, out of whack really quickly. And so I went all in. I was like, okay, got Audibles, reading book after book after book. And, you know, I had this goal. I was going to read like 12 to 15 books a year, because I was not a reader before.
hmm,
I have a tendency to get into something and then I won't put it down. Like, I read the Dan Brown novels pretty much cover to cover in a couple of different cases. So, you know, and even in the business books, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. Such great information. And so, I wasn't a reader, but I'm like, nope, I'm going to change that. I'm going to go all in. But what I found was that I was taking in all this information and then wasn't doing anything with it. So I found, for me, the happy medium is, okay, I'm going to commit to a certain number of books a year, but commit to also then implementing the good ones.
yeah.
Right. And how can I take bits and pieces out of that and make it work for my business, that kind of thing. So I'm actually still in the process of reading your book and taking things out
Oh,
of it. So
good. You know,
yeah.
I actually ran into this guy one time, and he told me all these books and all these things. And I had encountered him multiple times over the course of several years. And the last time I saw him, he's telling me about another book. And, you know, you can become a person where you read so many books. So you can gain knowledge,
Yeah.
but if you don't ever implement, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
You know, to what you were saying, like you can gain all this knowledge, but if you're never doing anything with it, you've just read a book. Good for you. What are you
Totally.
going to do about it? You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I call that shelf help,
Mm,
because, you know, it just sits on the shelf getting dusty. And like you said, if you're not taking any action with it, that's about how much value it has.
yeah.
Pretty much none. Right.
Yeah. I know. I love that. I love that. I love to read. I like to
Yeah.
read these types of books, but I also like to read like novels, different things like that. You know,
Sure.
I love to read. Like the first year I bought my Kindle, I read 400 books.
Oh, wow. Holy.
I was just consuming so much because I love to read. Like I would rather read a book than watch TV. That's
Good
just
on
me.
you. That's
But
awesome. Yeah.
I've definitely pared back from that. I just want to say that.
That's, but that's awesome that, you know, you're doing that. Yeah. I mean, heck, in a way, I just was like, man, I need to kind of change I will sit down and watch TVs. Again, going back to the whole binging of a book, binge a TV show. Oof, man, I can do an all-nighter on certain stuff. So I have to be careful of that too.
Yeah. So, what are some key insights or advice that you have for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, a couple of big things. We already kind of talked about it a little bit, but to kind of extrapolate on it, this idea of, I need to find the guru and copy them, or the comparison of, oh, so and so's got this similar
Mhm.
business, and so I have to do it exactly like them because they seem successful. Um, I think that's something that I see really trap a lot of people, is that whole comparison or the need to do it like that, right? Because it's so much easier to sell something when you're going, oh, here's the package, just do it like I do it, and you're going to be rich.
Yeah.
And then you got the fine print that, you know, you're not necessarily going to be rich unless you do it exactly like I did it and you're me. right? They forget that part.
Right.
And, but, from a sales standpoint, it sounds really great, do 0 to 100K or whatever, the case may be. And then you got all these people that go, yeah, I never really got there. I couldn't quite figure it out. Right. And then it's on them. But the reality was they were trying to be somebody that they weren't.
Yeah.
So the harder thing to do, from a commitment standpoint, is to say, I'm going to build a business based on me. Again, take inspiration from others
Hmm.
and build it that way. And it's not this instant gratification thing. You're not going to go from 0 to 100K. There's going to be some stumbling blocks. You're going to have
Right.
to put in the work and the effort to build that business for yourself. And so I think that's one of the major things that I have seen and honestly have done. So I love talking to people about that and just kind of dispelling some of those myths. Why is like my favorite word. When I'm working with clients,
Yeah.
they probably get a little tired of hearing me go, "Oh, okay, great, but why?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like, "I just told
I'm
you."
there
I'm
with
like,
you.
"Yeah, yeah, for sure." So, I think if business owners will, if you take anything away from today, I would say take that word "why" and make it part of your vocabulary. When somebody tells you this is a great idea, go, "Oh, that's awesome. Why?"
Right.
Right? This is a great idea. Well, okay, great. But how would that fit for my business? Right. And you don't necessarily have to ask them that, but you need to do that in your business. Everything that you think is like, this is the way it's got to be, ask why. And
Hmm.
then, then you'll be able to kind of find what works for you, I think, from there.
Yeah. You know what I found is that I met with someone very early on, and they were saying kind of the whole guru thing. I got this coach and this is what they're telling me and it's just not working for me. And at that point I just had this moment of like clarity, like I'm never going to sell packages.
Yeah.
I am going to sell custom tailored solutions for my clients. Because and I shared with this person, I said, you don't have to do it exactly like your coach does it. You can tweak it to fit who you are, not
Yeah.
who they are. And so it's totally true though. I see, I personally believe that the market for coaches is saturated.
Sure.
And there are some that are doing amazing things and there are some that probably shouldn't be coaches.
Yep.
I actually don't call myself a coach anymore. I just call myself a mentor. I'm a leadership mentor.
That's
I'm a
awesome.
business mentor. I'm
There you go.
helping people. It's
Yep.
not about selling something for me. It's about helping other people.
Yep.
And I know you have a similar philosophy in it.
Hmm.
You're not trying to just sell something. You want to help people get
Yep.
from A to B or C, D, all the way to Z or whatever.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I totally, man, I've heard that so many times. Well, I bought this package and I had one lady tell me one time that she spent $50,000 for an entire year for 1 hour a month for this person to tell her how to do her business. And I thought,
Wow.
gosh, I can't believe you spent $50,000 for
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
that's what happens to people. It's
It,
so sad.
it is. It is really sad. And because it does, yeah, like I can, it's hard like to think about that because like you said, it is a bit saturated, right? So that
Mhm.
person's not really a coach. They might be telling them but the fact that they can sleep at night when they're doing that, is a little hard to, yeah, being around heart-centered entrepreneurs like yourself. I mean, that's what it's all about. You mentioned that I kind of operate the same way. That was the reason that I blew up my business. I did not feel like I was actually helping people. I felt like I was actually just, not stealing per se, but I was, taking money without providing the value that they deserved. Um, Everybody I talked to was like, no, this is great. This is all excellent stuff. And I'm like, okay, great. I appreciate you saying that, but it's just not me. I just can't
Yeah.
operate like that. And so, it is
And
really
I got
funny
to
when you,
commend you. That takes guts to blow up your business like that,
yeah.
and just start all over.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It did take guts and, in a way, maybe it was just took stupidity too, but that's okay. I can live with that.
We all have those moments.
That's right. There are days where I'm like, but, no, I wake up every day excited. I wake up every day feeling good about myself and the contributions that I can make. Right. And that
Mhm.
I am truly doing what God put me on this earth to do. And that's success to me. The bank
Yeah.
account will figure itself out on its own.
You know, for those of you who are starting a business or just started a business, you're not gonna start making a ton of money with probably within the first 18 months of your business. Like that's just the reality of it.
Mhm.
But don't be discouraged by that either, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And you're gonna during those 18 months, you're gonna find yourself discovering what really fits for you and just be okay with that first 18 months. And I would really recommend that you save up money prior to
Mhm.
you starting your business so that you don't start your business and then you don't have income,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's
A lot of,
a great piece of advice.
yes, it is. I had someone tell me that and I was like, thank you, which moves me into a gratitude moment. Who is someone that has inspired you?
Uh, so many people, so it took me a second because I really wanted to think about that. But I would have to say, what stands out is my wife. She is amazing in a lot of different ways, and obviously I'm biased because she's my wife. But I've always been kind of this hard worker, nose to the grindstone type person, and that's served me very well throughout the course of my life. But there was always something missing, and a big part of that was I didn't look for gratitude. I didn't celebrate the wins until I was quote unquote there. Just got to keep grinding harder. Just got to hustle more. And I always felt like I was on this hamster wheel to nowhere. And once I met my wife, I kind of jokingly say, once she got her hands on me and started molding me, um, she really helped me understand the power of gratitude, the power of celebration, and it's been life changing for me. So I have a ton of gratitude in that. In fact, crazy that we're talking today. Our book that her and I wrote together just actually launched on Amazon today. It's called The
That's
Gratitude
awesome.
Shift. Yeah,
I'll write that down. What's it called?
it's called The Gratitude Shift.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so we took this idea of gratitude, broke it into 10 chapters. We were fortunate enough to get 10 people to share some stories with us that related to the different chapters, and we worked on it for a good chunk of last year. And our goal was to get it done by the end of the year, but we pushed it out a month, and I'm still very proud of the effort and
That's
being able to get
awesome.
that out into the world. So yeah. Thank you for allowing me to share that. That it is something we're very proud of, but very grateful for my wife. It was
It
her
was
idea to
gratitude shift, right? You can
the
get it.
gratitude.
Hey,
Yep.
guys, go out there and support this author. Gratitude Shift on Amazon. But you have another book. Tell us about your other book.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. This book I have in hand. I ordered the Gratitude Shift today, but this is called The Fundamentals of Business Success. And the idea here was how, like you talked about the fact that we don't necessarily want to go and emulate or copy somebody else's business, like that person that you mentioned that was spending all that money to basically copy somebody else's business.
Mhm.
But I felt like there needed to be a framework. I briefly mentioned that I'm a Success Principles certified trainer. A gentleman named Jack Canfield has that certification. Some of you guys might be familiar with him from the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Anyhow, I loved all those principles. And what I realized as I was going through that training was all of these same principles can be utilized in a business environment, right? Obviously, there's some changes and some tweaks to it. So I took the success principles, I took other things that I've learned over being around small businesses for 30 plus years and said, okay, I don't want you to design a business exactly like I'm saying to design this, but here's a framework so you can work on that. And so there's 13 fundamentals in this book that allow you to just kind of go through this in a cycle and build a business that you love based on these fundamentals. So that was the whole preface of the book, was to put that out there as a structure and a framework that people can get their hands on. And I've had a blast really just kind of teaching the book ever since. So yeah, I'd love it if people would check that out as well.
Yeah. Do you ever do like a workshop where you teach the book in a workshop and those types of things?
We do. We do. In fact, we've got a retreat actually coming up in North Dakota. It's a 3-day, 2-night retreat where we'll it's a little bit different than just the book the whole time. We're going to definitely dig into the book and we'll get through all of it, and everybody will walk away with the clear reason for starting their business. They'll have goals. They'll have a business plan. They'll have all the structure and foundation. But we also found that, as you know, as small business owners, we do need to recharge. We do need to take care of ourselves. We do need to have that
Yeah.
self-care that sometimes we forget in the, 168-hour work week that we can sometimes get sucked into. So I partnered up with a friend of mine who's an amazing host and just likes to pamper people. And she found this beautiful lodge up in North Dakota. So we're going to do a 3-day retreat up there, April 10th through the 12th.
Okay.
For anybody that would be interested in that. We're going to limit it. There's only 11 rooms available, but it's all inclusive, and you just get to show up and work on your business and enjoy, relax, recharge, and really be pampered. I think as small business owners, that's an unusual thing because we wear all the hats. And so to have somebody else decide what's for dinner, to have somebody else take
Yeah.
care of us, and all I got to do is just, wake up and be happy. That's pretty cool.
So where does somebody sign up for that?
Yeah, so if they want to go to my website at oursuccessgroup.com, but there's a short link to get there. If you want to go directly to the retreat, it's osg.link/SOS. The title of it is Summit of Success. And we did a little play on words with the SOS, the business owners. I need a little help, right? And so send out that SOS
I
and
love
come
it.
to the Summit of Success.
Awesome. Well, tell us too how they can get a hold of you if they're interested in using your services, and like what are your like handles and stuff on social media and those
Absolutely.
types of things.
Yeah. So you can pretty much find me at Our Success Group everywhere. And if you want to connect with me, I've got just a website where it goes and you can connect with me by email. You can even send me a little video chat. I wanted to make it easy for people to reach out. So if you'll go to consultaaron.com, I found that .com name.
Love
And so
that.
I just send people directly there. It takes you to my website, but it gives you, again, all the different ways you can connect with me, including all the social media handles and stuff like that. But if you just happen to be on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, you can search Our Success Group and find us.
What would be a little nugget of wisdom as we wind this down that you have for leaders and business owners or entrepreneurs?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, this is one that I have written on my computer screen, just kind of taped to the side as a reminder to every day work on this, because I think as humans, we're all recovering people pleasers. And we think that people pleasing is a good thing, but it's actually the opposite.
Mhm.
It's the whole put your oxygen mask on first thing. And when we're trying to be a people pleaser, we're trying to be all things to everyone. And so I think it's important for us to remember that when we try to be all things to everyone, we end up being nothing to no one. And therefore, just understand that it's okay to say no. And it's okay if somebody says no to you. You actually want to find as many no's as you can out there because it's just out of alignment. So
Mhm.
just stop trying to be all things to everybody and work together, collaborate with amazing people like Amy, and your life will be good.
And amazing people like Aaron.
Thumbs up.
If you are in the St. Louis area, I really highly recommend that you check out the monthly. It's the fourth Monday. Am I
Yep.
getting it right?
Yep.
Fourth
You're exactly.
Monday of the month at 8020 Studios in O'Fallon,
Mhm.
Missouri.
Yep.
And where can they go sign up for that?
Yeah, so we call that the Entrepreneur Success Circle. So again, I like my little short links here. So if you go to osg.link/circle, you can get all the details on that and register. There's no charge to come. We just ask that you register so we know who's coming and can plan accordingly. And yeah, so excited to see more people there. We keep getting new people showing up, and
Great.
it's a growing opportunity to get together.
Yeah, I haven't been able to come the last couple months, but December was December, and then January has been January.
Yep, absolutely. Totally understand. So pop in whenever, but yeah, we
Yeah.
always love having
And
you.
I have really enjoyed it. I do want to say that. And, I don't, I go into things with like, how can I add value to people? Not about what am I going to get out of it. And I think
Absolutely.
that is something that every entrepreneur attitude that every entrepreneur should have. If you walk
100%.
into a room about how am I going to add value to the people today versus what am I going to get out of this? You're going to see your business grow because you're giving to people versus trying to take from people.
Yep.
I guess
100%.
that's my little nugget. I don't know why I felt like I needed to share that, but I just
That
did.
was a
Not
perfect
because of
nugget though.
Aaron, because he's a giver.
Well, we're in good company here, so I
Yeah.
love
Well, I
it.
really appreciate you taking the time to do this podcast with me. And you're someone that I think of often. And sometimes there's people that want to work with me that aren't a great fit for me. And I'm definitely just telling everybody, I will definitely pass them on to Aaron because he's a great guy and he's a great coach. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
well, thank you so much, Aaron. Really appreciate it. And I hope your retreat sounds amazing. I cannot go, but I would love to go. I hope it is a great success.
Thank you.